Welcome back, guys. Here we're going to be doing some live tattooing, real-time tattooing. This is 100% the speed that I move at for this particular rib piece. This is the stencil we use. If you don't want to sit here for 2 hours and really dissect this piece, then feel free. I will link the sped up version. I think it's about 5 minutes. It'll just quickly take you through it so you can kind of see what is going on. And then if you want to, you can come back and watch the live version, which is what we're gonna do right here, guys. So I'm gonna chill with you. I'm gonna watch this with you. I'm gonna let you know what I'm doing, when I'm doing it, unless I miss something. Nonetheless, guys, let me know in the comments if this is the kind of content you want to see. Do you want to see long form content? I'm trying to appeal to people who just want to get a quick look at what's going on with some short 5-minute videos, and then for you guys who really want to dissect what's going on, watch what's happening. That's what these ones are for. But I don't know what you want unless you let me know, so feel free to let me know below what you guys want to see. Alright, so here I am rocking I believe this is a 5-round shader. This is either a 5-round shader or a 9-round shader, and I'm using this just to get a thick line, those cross lines. I want to make one pass on those lines, and I just want them to fill it out nicely. I don't want it to be huge, but I want it to be the size that I want it. And so I pick the needles that I need to give me the result that I want. And I want that thick of a line, the line you see there. And so that is what we're running. And also, I am using the Bishop Wand Packer. Anytime you see me with a liner or a shader, a round shader that is, I'm using the Bishop Wand Packer. Anytime you see a mag in that, in the clips, I am using the Bishop Wand Shader. I really like the shader for soft, smooth shading. I have more time to skin, hits a little softer, you have to apply a little bit more pressure, but I like that, and so that's why I do that. Now, the thing that I'm sure some people are wondering is, why are you starting where you're starting at? When you want to start at the bottom or whatever? Well, I let the stencil dry. I gave it 15 minutes or so. I usually, first thing I do is get that stencil on there. We size it out, we figure it out, we get the stencil on there. Then I go and choose my needles. That's the moment I will start picking out my needles, once I can see the tattoo on the skin, the stencil on the skin. Now it's my time to decide what tools do I need for this job. And then once I have that, I will mix my inks and get going. So yeah, it usually takes about 15 minutes. I'm in no rush at this point. If I take a little bit longer, then I just get a better stencil. And again, I'm not rushing here either. I'm dabbing at this point, not wiping, because again, I want to give that stencil more time to dry. But at the same time, I kind of want to get my background put in. I want to get those cross pieces in there, and then just really hone in on the lion's face itself. These are CNC police cartridges I'm using. I use a mixture of CNC police cartridges and EMALLA cartridges as well. I prefer the EMALLA mags, are probably my favorite. I mean, their liners, shaders are fantastic, but if I had to, a certain amount of money and I had to spend it a certain way, I'd buy the liners and shaders through police cartridges, and then all my mags through EMALLA. Just because they're a little bit more pricey for the EMALLA carts, but they're worth it, though. They are worth it. So the next order I put in, there'll be much more EMALLA carts coming my way. And running lines on the ribs is not the greatest, that's for sure. So as I'm running this line across, anytime I feel anything a little off, a breath, a movement I don't like, I just pull my hand right up out of there, and I will continue that line again. But what I like about this series are these long form videos is you can watch, you can see how fast a person's moving. We see so many sped up videos, so many time lapses and speed ramps and this, that, and the other. And sometimes we just, what does it look like live? And I had a very short apprenticeship before I realized that I needed to get out of there because it was just a hot mess. It would be one thing if the artists were, pretty good or decent. That wasn't the case. But what I did do the time I was there was this, what we're doing right here. I would sit there and watch them tattoo. Watch what was going on. That's really the bulk of what I did, was watch people tattoo. And then I'd go home, get on the internet, and try to watch other people that had a bit more ability behind them, tattoo as well. Real time, whatever I could get my hands on. So this is valuable to the right person, and I think that's the real reason why I decided to put this kind of stuff out there. And anybody who makes videos like this, kudos to you. It's not easy. You definitely put yourself out there to be ridiculed. You put yourself out there to have people see the flaws in your work that they wouldn't otherwise notice, but you show it to them. And while that might stink sometimes, I think the end result, the helping somebody else who's trying out there is far more valuable to me, because I was that guy, so I know what that's like. And I guess this is giving back. So I dropped back down to that, well, not drop back down, I'm still using it. I'm pretty sure I have a 9-round shader, a 5-round shader, and a 5-round liner for details and stuff, which we'll get to later. But when it comes to needles, I've talked about this before, look at them as like brushes, as you would brushes. When going to do a painting, I'm no painter, I just use it because it makes the most sense. And let's see, if the piece is large, you might use larger paint brushes. If the piece is small, you might need smaller ones. And so that's how I view these. What size paintbrush do I need? Alright, well, I'm going to be doing some large areas of shading maybe, so maybe I had to go with this size paintbrush. For this piece, for mags, a lot of what I use here is, I believe, a 7 curved Magnum. It's not terribly large, but this piece up in the face and all that is not terribly large either. So you just gotta decide. It's a common question I get is, hey, how do I know what needles to use? Well, if you were doing a painting, how would you know what brushes to use? It just depends on the size that you're looking for, the effect you're looking for. And I know a lot of people tell me that they're scared of mags. Well, I'm going to tell you that you're better off just figuring them out sooner than later. They're going to make your life a lot better. Doesn't mean you have to use them all the time, but it is a extremely valuable tool to have in your arsenal. No different than stipple shading, everything else. I don't use a lot of stipple shading, but I have it. It's in my arsenal if I want to use it, if I want to mix it up a little bit. So in this particular piece, I decided the best thing to do here, because my stencil is pretty solid, I'm still taking my time, not trying to do any harsh wiping here. There's no water on this towel. It's a dry towel. But I decided it's going to be best to try to put in the blacks first, my dark stuff. Again, that's why I put those lines, that's why I'm working on the nose. That's why I'm working on the little piece under the mouth there. I mean, under the nose, part of the mouth, if you will. I'll eventually put some black in the eyes. I will finish shading those big thick cross lines up there with the mag. And this, it just slowly putting things together. If you can, when you're starting a piece, you're not really sure where to begin. That's another common question. How do you know where to start? Well, I mean, a lot of times you kind of want to start from the bottom, work your way up. But again, if you know what you're doing, you can decide how you do things. So I know that the stencil could run away on me, but I also know the stencil's holding well. I'm going to take care of it. And by the time I get to the details, that stencil, those portions are going to be so dry, I'll probably be able to wipe them away very easily, my ink, and not lose that stencil. So what you could do, again, if you're not sure where to start and you have a solid stencil, start where in those places you absolutely know. I know these spots are black. You can do that. There are sometimes I will absolutely start with the lightest shades and work my way to the darker ones. And there are times where I'll start with the darkest parts and work my way to the lightest spots. In this case, I'm going dark. I want to get all the pieces that I absolutely know are here. I know that these parts are black. We're going to put those in black. And then I'm going to just slowly work on the pieces that I know. And before you know it, the more you work on that, the more you work on those easier parts, or the parts that your brain comprehends a bit better, then before you know it, it'll be that much easier to see the parts that you're unsure of. The idea of these videos aren't necessarily to show you how deep are my needles going, things like that, or I guess they're more to show you how you could tackle a piece like this, what needles to use, things to think about. So again, if you're in that spot and you're trying to figure out, like, well, I'm not sure how deep I should put my needles, I'm not sure about this, then this kind of video is probably not going to be suited for you, which is totally fine. Or you can watch this and learn some different things as you're developing those more fundamental skills of lining, shading, and all that jazz. You can definitely pick up some things from this, but again, once you know how deep, once you know what the ink is supposed to look like in the skin, you'll know whether you've got it in there or not. And of course, you're always better off, in my opinion, to hold back a little bit until you understand that portion of the skin. So you can go a little lighter, test it out, okay, boom, got it, and then go for it. Because every part of the skin is going to be different, every part of the body is going to be different as far as depth goes, as far as, you get what I'm saying. So again, I know we're not diving in, zooming super close so you can see every part of the needles, every part of all that. It would just take me days and days and days to edit this, to get it to where you guys can see everything. I just really want you to be able to watch it and kind of pick stuff up, see what's happening, what you can do, how you can carry this over to what you're doing or whatnot. And again, guys, I'm far from where I would like to be tattooing wise, but it is a journey, it is a process. You have to keep doing it, you have to keep pushing, you have to keep trying, and you're gonna have a series of aha moments along the way where you're gonna be like, aha, that's how that works, aha, that's how I get that shade, aha, that's what that's supposed to look like. And over time, a few of these aha moments will get you to where you want to be, or at least it will get you started to where you want to be. It's a journey, it's never ending. It is a fun process, and I am thoroughly enjoying it because I finally feel like I'm at a point where I can just do tattoos that I want to do. I'm not overly stressed or worried about them. I just enjoy the process. I enjoy doing medium to large to the bigger the pieces, the better for me. That's just what I enjoy. I know everybody's different. So anyhow, I'll stop talking and let you guys watch this for a minute unless something changes, and it just changed, of course. Here I'm using a 15 curve mag, and I'm just packing in the black. You can see in my stencil there, I've lined this little section right there. That's letting me know, hey Dave, we're gonna go full black up to this point. I mean, like saturated black. Then from here, you can push out a little bit, whip out, shade out a little, and then we're gonna come back in with probably a 20 drop of black, my next level down from full black, and blend those together, because I don't want that to be full black. When it heals, I want that to be, you know, like this smooth sort of from black to a dark gray. So I'm using just that side of that mag, just manipulating the mag to pack that black in there. Now here's where I am starting the process. I'm moving my hand so much faster here. I'm taking a look. Okay, now a little bit more. Moving my hand faster, depositing a little less black, and eventually I will go ahead and switch over to the 20 drop. Eventually. I lied. So now I'm coming in here with the liner or shader or something and refining some stuff and filling in this other piece along the side. And I'm going to do the same over here as well. Solid black, a line. I think this is a round shader I'm using here, since I'm really just trying to pack this black in on these sides. And mainly that center is where we're going to drop down. These sides I think are going to stay primarily black. It's best to make these videos just like a day or two after the tattoo is made, because you have a bit more of, I guess you just remember a little bit more about the process and what you did. It's been a little bit longer than that. I think it's been like a week now, so I needed to get this put together before I forget completely the details of what I was doing here. So some things might be slightly off, but I think overall you'll get the gist. I believe at this point I'm getting my mag ready. I'm getting that 20 drop ready. And here we go. Now I'm just packing that 20 drop right in there. I want it to be dark but smooth, if you will. The thought process here is, do I want to do the cross on the other side, because I might have to put my fingers and hands in this purple a bit more than I want to. So I try to smartly put my hand in a place where I'm not smearing the purple all over the place, and referring back to that reference a lot. Just want to make sure before I dive in here I know exactly what's going on. And we're pretty much going to repeat the process over here that we did on the other side. Now I'm coming back in there to fine tune this a little bit, fill up to the edges, get that dark all the way over there to the crisp from the edges, and bring it back in a little bit more. So again, treat them like paintbrushes. Use the mags to fill in larger areas, get you a bit more of a smooth areas, and then get those smaller needles, or aka smaller brushes to do this, the fine detail stuff, the smaller areas. Hey, just want to take the time to thank you guys for all the support you provide to me and the channel and whatnot. I appreciate it. I really do. We've created quite a little community here, a base. I know I've gotten to know quite a few of you guys and gals, and it's been cool. I look forward to continuing that as we go, continuing my progression and your guys' progression, and just moving forward that way. Anyhow, I just want to say thanks. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new here, and yeah, hit the like button while you're at it. Appreciate all the support, guys. There's links in the description if you want to check other stuff out and support the channel that much further. And again, here I'm using that round shader, just kind of getting stuff shaped out, lined out, and then I'm going to come back in with the mag and start pushing this black down just like we did on the side. And here we go. 15 curve mag, packing that black. Gonna do something very similar like we did on the side. Pack it pretty solid where I want it, blend it out a little bit, come back in with that next shade down, and push that, well, downward. Alright, so at this point, I am taking that 15 curve mag and I'm just following those marks, because in reality, those are supposed to be like a paintbrush mark, like a quick marks, if you will. So realistically, I should have used maybe a 19 or a 25 curve mag, because I could have got away with this in just one pass, because the curved mag will give you soft edges, which is kind of what I want here, but this was just slightly smaller, so I kind of had to go a few passes left and right to thicken it up a little bit. But again, that's not a big deal. Also here, guys, if you watch the way we're putting this ink in, the way I'm using this mag, it's that pendulum motion, but there's pressure being applied. Pressure is going in. The quicker I move my hand, the less ink is going to be applied. I want these side pieces to be kind of on the lighter end. So we'll leave it at that. But again, when you're doing that pendulum motion, you need to actually push the needles into the skin. You can't just brush along the top, because that top layer of skin is gonna kind of fall away when it heals. So you need to make sure you're putting that ink into the correct area. With that, after that, we come down here with that round shader or liner, whichever it is. I'm pretty sure it's a round shader. And just kind of putting the little details in, and then we'll bust out that mag and do this bottom portion. And again, we kind of have to get through this, what we'll call the boring parts first, before we can kind of dive into the face and start having a little bit more fun, if you will. Start to see this piece come alive. I keep my reference on my tablet. So the reference on the tablet, it sits just right. All I want to be able to do is look up, or maybe up and slightly to the right, and be able to see my reference. And I will have that zoomed in on the tablet to the area I'm working on. And as I move along, I will move the piece on the tablet. So I'm focused just on one section at a time as I move along, if you will. And again, here we come with that mag, packing in the black down there, and we're going to just do the same thing we did before, like we did at the top and on the sides. Put our black in, push the black out just a little bit, not saturating it towards the end where we want to bring in our next tone. At this point, as I'm bringing that black up, I am thinking about the hair, fur, whatever you want to call it, on the chin here, making sure that I leave open space. Now, the next thing I'm doing here is I have that, again, either the 5-round shader or the round liner, and it's more likely a round liner. And I'm putting the dark in the chin, if you will. So there's different hairs you can see, or different shades you can see in the hair on the chin, fur, forgive my horrible lingo here. And I'm starting with the darkest parts first. I'm putting the darkest parts into the chin first. Then as I come back and as I move, I'll put lighter tones, mid-tones, whites even at the end into the chin, and just to give it a little bit more overall texture. So some parts are deeper in there, some are not. You get the drill or the gist. And I'm actually using a mixture of round liner and a round shader to make this happen, because you can use a mag as well, but you just have a little bit more control in these smaller pieces with a round liner or a round shader. So that is what I'm doing. I'm following the stencil and I'm just kind of taking my time. But again, overall, this is a 2-hour tattoo. I think in real life it was probably around 2 hours and 30 minutes. It's just that I was able to take a few breaks out, so it shortened the video up a little bit. Again, I'm still just putting the black in on this chin. Looking at the reference, finding the spots that are black. Again, there's other textures, other like hair lines going to be shown in this chin, but right now just putting those black bits in, and you can already kind of see it come alive a little bit here. And again, when you're putting the black in there at the bottom, you're focused more on trying to create open areas, using the black to create open hair areas. Hopefully that makes sense. And again, I'm just still continuing that same process, just putting those just putting the black in. And if you see open areas, then those are being left open for a purpose. Either I'm going to come back with a lighter tone in there or what have you. I do believe this bottom section is going to be pretty dark, so I'll probably come back with a darker shade and go over top of these areas. But it's better to give your dark areas a little bit more life if you can. So you could get away with making the entire part underneath the chin black, but I've chosen to really follow the reference the best I can and put black and then dark gray. So my 20 drop of black will go into a lot of these open areas here under the chin. And when it heals out, it should just give it a little bit more life in the black areas. Also here I'm using the Bishop Wand shader and an EMALLA 7-round mag. Now all the needles I use on the mag side of things are bug pin number 10 or 0.25. And when it comes to anything liner wise, it's going to be a standard number 12 liners. Every once in a while I will use a bug pin 5 because it just, I don't know, I like to use it in place of where I would use 3-round liners because they're sharp, they're a little bit stiffer, if you will. You know, there's 5 tiny needles together. Feel like I get a little more strength from that needle. But anyhow, again, using that 7 curved bug pin mag from EMALLA. And there are a few whiskers here. Now, the whiskers on this side of the face are a little more prominent in my photo. On the other side, not as much. They kind of like cut off kind of abruptly. I thought about making changes to that so that they looked a little bit more, I would call it realistic. But again, the photo didn't call for it, and I thought, you know what, I'm not going to try to make any rash decisions here. The client liked that photo, so we went with that. So again, the first thing I'm doing is I'm putting my darks behind those whiskers, shaping those whiskers out. That way I have those. Then the rest I'm going to be doing over here is just looking at that reference and providing shape to the fur. And again, I'm starting with the dark shade first, my darkest black, or just black, I guess, to get my words together here. And then I will refine as well. So what I'm doing all the way around this lower part of the face is I'm putting my darks in. Dark all the way around the lower part of the face. Pretty much from the cross, center of the cross down, or the bottom of the cross down. And then once I have my darks in there, then I will start refining things with lighter shades, mid shades, all that jazz, which we'll talk about when we get there. as I start to work on these sides here, I start to introduce different shades, different values, and I'll start mixing back and forth between darks, mids, and lights. But for the most part, on these sides, we're more in the darker range of shades, if you will. What I've done here is the nose is primarily, it's completely a tone. And then on top of that tone, there are some darker areas, some lighter areas. So what I've done here is I've pretty much taken a 10 drop of black approximately and shaded over the entire portion of the nose, leaving a few spots with a little less in it where I might have a white highlight or whatnot. And then from here, I will take like a 20 drop and start to shape out the darker areas of the nose. But overall, I know it's this shade that I put down, and now I'm going to put some darker shades on top of the spots where I want them to be darker, and leave some openings where maybe I might pop some white or some really, really light gray. And as you can see, I've dropped down to a round shader here to just do a little bit more in the nose, and then back down here to the bottom, start shaping some stuff out. I'm not in any rush here, and it's important not to be in a rush. I think many times in every tattoo, I'm constantly telling myself, slow down, don't be in a rush, don't worry about it, just keep working, keep moving, and before you know it, you will be done. And it won't take you as long as maybe you're thinking in your head, like, oh no, it's gonna take so long, yada yada. Don't even worry about that. And if I could have spent another hour on top of this working on this piece, really refining everything. But you have to read your client and know how much is enough, what they're looking for and whatnot. At this point, I'm starting to put little bits of texture, little dots into the nose area here, the darkest spots. This is black I have here loaded up, and I'm moving quickly and just putting little dots, and that kind of, or little movements, which give the look of texture, and like there's hair there, some darker bits. And this is the beginning process of that. We'll be doing a lot more of that throughout this piece, but this is me still just kind of putting in those dark tones. Anywhere there is dark, anywhere there's black, I'm putting that in. Again, we're texturing, and when texturing, you just kind of, it's almost a little bit controlled, but not. You can't really think about every spot you're going to be putting a dot or a movement when trying to do some of these texture bits. It almost has to be organically put in, natural looking, or unnatural, unstructured is what I have found. Also throughout here, I'm switching between 5 drops of black, 10 drops of black. I'm in my lighter tones, if you will, now. I've got most of my bulk done in the face here, in the nose here. Now I'm coming back with my light tones, a mixture of them, and just putting that texture there, little fur marks and what have you. And then I come back through with that mag and just kind of give it overall shape and what have you. I put in the details, the texture and whatnot. Now we're going to come through with a 5 drop and a 2 drop of gray and shape it out. Give it a little bit more form, if you will. Okay, so at this point now is when I'm coming back with those mid shades, mid-tones. So I'm gonna start adding a little bit more detail to the chin, showing a little bit more shape of fur, and then we just try to work our way backwards, lighter and lighter, and then at the end obviously we put some white in there. And for this I'm using the 7 curved bug pin mag from EMALLA. I really like using both of these machines, both the packer and the shader. Now, you might not care for these machines, might, whatever, but I like having 2 machines out. One with my liners, round shaders loaded up, and then one for my mag, so I can have that 5 round shader or 5 round liner in one machine, in that mag I'm currently using in another machine. And so if I'm running that mag along, I'm like, ooh, I want to get in that detail, that little spot right there, I just put that one down, pick up the other machine, do the little thing, put the machine back, pick back up the other one. You can absolutely switch cartridges. It's just even a little bit faster, especially when you have one machine that just seems a little bit more set up for that. Here I speed this up because my head is in the way, so I just thought there's no point in forcing you to sit here and look at my ear, hat, and side beard, so we sped this up. And all I did is pretty much the same thing on this side as I did on the other side. So for now, that is good enough for the bottom portion there. We'll come back, do some other stuff, add some white later. Now it's time to work up in the nose, the bridge of the nose, the sides of the faces, and the whole idea here is just apply texture and fur shape. But texturing is probably the most important thing. But again, what I'm going to do is add my dark parts. There are straight black areas here in the face, and I'm going to put those in first because again, those give me guide lines, guide points to work off. So I'm looking at my reference so I can say, okay, off of that black piece there on the right, that's where I'm going to start doing this, that, or the other. And also you put in the parts that are the easiest first. If you put those easier parts in, the rest is going to be sort of come together. So you're like, all right, I got that in. All right, what else can I see really well? Okay, I see that section right there in those tones and those shapes. Let me go do that. Boom. You do that, and you do a little bit more of that, and then you move over here and do that. And then before you know, you're like, okay, well, those are the areas left. Okay, that's that, and that's that. That's kind of the way my mind works when it comes to these things. Because if this were a drawing or whatnot, you have all the time in the world. You can do a little bit of it, step back, look at it, take a moment, yada, yada. Here, I mean, you can do those things, but people are kind of paying you. So you have to stay in the moment, stay right there and complete this. And to do that for me, that means starting from the easier things and moving towards what might be harder. But again, that's a case-by-case basis. Sometimes you might want to jump in and put the eyes in a portrait first, possibly. It's like, I need those to be perfect. I'm not risking the stencil going anywhere. Boom, do the hard stuff first and then enjoy the process the rest of the way. It just depends on the situation, the piece, and whatnot. Also, when it comes to tattooing fur or whatnot, hair, well, mainly I guess fur on animals, is not to necessarily think of it as fur or as hair or whatnot. I'm trying to constantly train myself to just not think about what I think it is, but just do what I see. So I might see dots. Well, how do they make that hair right there? Well, those are dots. I see dots, and then I see light dots, and then I see that it has like a tone over top of it. So you start breaking it down. If you look at it as fur, then you think it has to be liney, you know, because fur is flowy and whatnot. Now on the sides here, there is a little bit more liney, if you will. But as we make it towards the nose, the bridge there of the nose, it's dots. It's not perfect dots. They're scratch dots or this or that. It's that building of texture and then laying a tone over top of that texture is how you're going to build that out. Again, even on the side of the face here, I'm not thinking fur. I'm thinking, okay, this area has some dark in it. I need to let some of this open skin pass through these different areas. Just constantly digesting what you're looking at and thinking, how do I make that? And if you're really not sure how to make that texture or make that thing or whatever, that's why it's so important to do it on paper. If you can make it look the way you want it to look on paper, then you're going to have that much better of a chance making it work on skin, because you know how you did it on paper. Now you just got to translate that to the skin. And again, I'm nowhere where I'd like to be. You know, I just want to somehow make it to another level of realism or another level of tattooing. But I always think no matter where you're at, it's important to understand that you're in that process. I'm in that process, doing tattoos that push us a little bit. Over time, it's going to improve. And that's what I've noticed in my own work, that yes, we beat ourselves up sometimes, but we got to keep doing it, keep pushing forward, keep trying to improve, and over time it will happen. Again, that's going to come from those moments where you realize something. Holy cow, that's how I can do that. Or, you know, trust yourself. Putting scribbly dots on somebody is not exactly the easiest thing to do. Not when you're trying to make something look really good and you're like, all right, so the best thing I can do to make this texture is to just go nuts and put weird little dots all over it. Well, yeah. And once you do that a couple times, or you do something a few times and you realize like, wow, that turned out kind of cool. Well, you start to trust yourself and you start to trust what you see, and then you start to figure out, all right, I see those are dots, or that is that. I'm just going to duplicate that. So anyhow, I'll let you watch this again for a few minutes. I also get asked a lot or told that I'm not stretching the skin, or how are you tattooing without stretching the skin, yada yada. And I think it's because, you know, maybe some people understand that what's happening here, but I'll explain anyhow. That hand that's holding the blue shop rag, that's applying pressure and pulling down on the skin. I've noticed in videos and whatnot, any kind of video you watch, you can never understand or get a feel for the intensity of the stretch. It just looks like hands are just resting there. So I just want to go ahead and let you know that they're not resting there. I am pulling down and away, and my tattooing hand is also slightly pushing away. So I'm pushing towards the armpit area with my tattooing hand while tattooing. Not so intensely, but I am definitely, when I place my hand, pushing down and away and then planting it. And that's going to give a little bit of a stretch, along with the hand that's holding the towel, pushing down and away as well. You see it a little bit there where it pulls, and that's giving me enough. And again, we're coming back to this texturing, and there's different values in the texturing. You know, you might want to put your dark values of texture and dots in first, or what have you. There's no real rhyme or reason here. And then come through and put your other tones in as well. But I like to map things out a little bit with either my darks or the opposite with my lights. So if this were like a portrait of a face, I would be mapping this out with a bit lighter of a tone, like a 5-drop, a 2-drop. That gives me a little bit more leeway, and then I'll come back through and really put the exact tone I want where I want it. As again, you can see here with the texturing, it's very haphazard, if you will. It's a little all over the place. If you think too hard, you're going to put dots and texture too organized. It needs to be organized as far as you want more volume here, less there. That's about it. And you got to change your values as well. So you can't just use black. You don't just want to use your darks. Switch it around, lighter, darker tones, where your reference calls for it. And now I've gone back to that curved mag, and now I'm putting a shade over the top of this area, because again, like I said before, we texture it, then we shade it. For me anyhow, in this particular piece, I wanted to get the texture in. Now I can build up a bit more dark here and there once the texture is laid down, to give it more shape and, I guess, believability, if you will. And that's what I'm kind of doing throughout. You see now we've got the texture and whatnot on this side of the face. Now it's time to get that mag and start giving actual tones to these areas. And most of the time, these tones I'm using here, I believe this is like a 5-drop of black, 5 drops of black, 12 drops of white, and the rest distilled water. It's like it's a wash, but it has a gray tone to it, like a little bit of a gray look because of the white added. Certainly not opaque, but I really enjoy this type of gray wash. Again, looking back and forth to that reference, you can see in that clip there, my head, even while I'm making these movements in the skin, I'm glancing over because I want to kind of look, where am I going with this? Where does this flow to? All that sort of stuff's going through your head all the time. Not to beat a dead horse here, but again, I'm going to these different layers. As you can see with the purple stencil there, you have different layers of fur, and putting the dark parts in there, the parts that underlie or overlay, relay. You get what I'm saying. So again, I'm putting the dark in, and then I'm going to start shaping it a little bit with those lighter tones, and then we're going to come back with the mag and really give it a tone where it needs it, and just keep moving from there. Again, if you're still watching this video to this point and you've watched to this point, thank you. That is, you're one of the few. You can definitely check your analytics. You could tell what people watch, how much they watch. Typically not that much, but that is okay. So again, if you're still watching, I just want to tell you thank you, and I hope that you're able to take something away from this, whether you're new, whether you're way beyond my level of tattooing. And I think you can always take something away from a video, from anything, I know I do. Even if it's something I'm like, all right, I know all this, done all this. It's just that little bit here or there that might be something you just didn't do, or you can relate to and whatnot, and you can build up a bit of confidence, or whatever the case may be. Don't let me start rambling here. Again, just want to say thank you guys for the support and watching it through to this point. And yeah, thanks. It is definitely tempting to want to start to rush through. Especially when you've gotten half the face done, you're like, all right, you get a groove after a certain point, and your pace will speed up, but it's constant. Slow down, take your time, and of course you can't. On every piece, I wish I could have another hour and a half, but again, you're working off a client who can only take so much, and your job is to help push them through that, but at the same time, you got to kind of know when to stop. So, but the ultimate point here is to take your time. Remind yourself, take your time. Don't rush, because when it's over, it's over. And you're going to look at the photo, and you're going to wish that you had done X, Y, and Z. But that's going to happen regardless. No matter how good of a job you do, I always look at my pieces and think, dang it, this, that, and this, blah, blah, blah. But you have to accept it and go, all right, overall, I like this piece, but there's like 15 things I wish I'd have done. So in that process of taking your time, you're cutting down a little bit on those self-critiques you come up with in the end. Also, when it comes to those texture spots, feel free to use different size needles as well, or needle grouping. So if you want, you could start off by using a 5 round liner, 5 bug pin round liner, and start putting little bits of texture, dots or what have you. And then you could try a 5 round shader as well. It's going to give you a little bit larger, and depending on how you put that in and the way you move, it could give you a little bit more of like a hazed line as well, which would add to that textury sort of look that you may be going for. Which is kind of what I'm doing over here, just giving a little sort of texture, shade, movement, and the eye will do the rest. And just like we did on the other side of the face, coming back with that mag, small mag, 9 curved mag, or I believe it's a 9 curved mag or a 7 curved mag, whatever I said before. And giving everything kind of like shape and tone or whatnot. Right now we have a little bit of that we did with the round shader and round liner, but now we can just do a little bit more. Now I'm coming back in there into these eyes and just taking where it's just open skin there around the black portion and just shading that down a little bit so it gives it a little bit more shape. And we're using that with a 5-drop. And I hope you guys understand when I say the different drops: 20, drop 10, drop 5, drop. I should have explained this in the beginning, but if you made it this far, I'll explain a little bit more. 20 drops is how many drops of black I have in my cap. 10 drops, how many drops of black. So that matters. The size of the cap matters as well. I use number 17 caps, and my first cap is 100% black. Second cap is 20 drops of black. Third drop is 10 drops of black. Fourth is 5 drops, and fifth is 2 drops. I then put anywhere from 10 to 12 drops of Star Bright White in each cap. Then I fill the rest up with distilled water and mix it up. So there you go. Just getting the final pieces, final little things in here now before we bust out the white and get to adding that. All right, here we go. Fresh needles, guys. Fresh needles. I'm not using the same needles I used before and cleaning them. There's no point in risking that. Just get fresh needles. Here I'm using a standard 5-round liner. Not a round shader, not a bug pin, just a 5-round liner. And I'm going through, starting at the bottom here and shaping, putting a little bit of highlights, adding to the tonage. So I look at my white as just another tone in the game. So I have my blacks, I move all the way down to my lights. Now I have white. Let me put white where I want that to be. And you know, there's moments where maybe in a piece you don't want a lot of white. You just want a little white, maybe in the eyes or whatnot. It's totally up to you when it comes to putting in white. It depends on the client, how well they're gonna retain that white and what have you. But in this piece we put, you know, a decent amount of white throughout it. But if you look at it, it doesn't need the white. I like to do the tattoo to where it can live on its own without the white. The white is just a little extra on top, in my opinion. And that's, I think, the best way to look at it. Because if you rely too heavily on your whites to make the piece, then if those whites don't last, or the particular skin grows over and it's kind of hard to see or whatever, you don't want the piece falling apart because you're relying so heavily on your whites. So again, I say one last time, I tattooed it in a manner that I did not need the white to do the job for me. The white is just a pop. Also, if the client was like, I am done, no more, fine, fair enough. We don't have to put the whites in. You're still going to walk away with something that's going to hold up just fine. Also, I slow my machine down a little bit more when I'm putting in white. Just give it a little extra time. And there are places where I am packing the white. And when putting in white, it's a trust thing. Because sometimes I call my white highlights red highlights, because that's what they end up looking like for a little while. And if you see that red and you see maybe some blood pushing through and you think, oh, it's not going in, let me go over and over and over, you're going to ruin the white, tear the skin up. So maybe a couple passes, you know your passes, you know how hard they are, blah, blah, blah. So you got to kind of trust the process as well. And one last thing for me, I don't really want my whites to just be overwhelmingly popping. I want them to cohesively live with the piece, if that makes sense, right? I don't want you to look at it and just see these white highlights, these hard-lined white highlights. I'm just, again, going to treat it like I would a gray wash, a light wash, whatever. I'm going to put it in. It's just another piece in the puzzle, if that makes sense. Now, there are those pieces that you do and you really want to just run a nice solid white pack spot there to really create that definition, or whatever the case may be. But I'm just saying, for the most part, in some of these more, semi-realistic, realistic pieces, that's what I'm going for, is a bit more of a subtle white. And just like the other shades, I put the same sort of texturing with the white in in the nose here, in the jaw, all that, like in the front of the nose area, just as I would the light grays. Like I was saying before, again, I just treat it like it's the lightest tone, which it kind of is. It's white, and parts are going to live there, parts are going to pop out a little bit more, but again, it's not an overwhelming look of white. Also, I just want to let you guys know I had a fantastic opportunity come my way. With that being said, I will be in Tampa, Florida for Ink the Bay 3. I'm in Ohio, so I'll be making the drive to Tampa, Florida. Me and my wife will be there. We'll be teaching a seminar on the 24th, March 24th. That's a Friday, the first day. It'll be from 2:30 to 4:30, so it'll be a 2-hour seminar. It'll be in room B. Tickets are $100 and there's only 20 slots, guys. I want to talk about a career in tattooing. I want to help you get your mind wrapped around that as a possibility. Some fundamentals, not super basic. I want to give you a little bit more fundamentals talk. We're going to be covering quite a few things. Your gray washes, colors, some techniques, some of the things that are going to take your work from one level to the next, and also just how to build a clientele base. You know, whether you're new, whether you're intermediate, it doesn't matter. There's a process to it. You know, we can get distracted by so many different things. So I want to talk about that, you know, starting your own business, if you will. I don't want to go too much into detail on that because every state is a little bit different. And just explain, you know, YouTube as well as a tool for people who want to share their journey as I have. I really just want to lay it all out there, and I'm hoping we can get as much done in those 2 hours as possible. I'd also like to have a little bit of live tattooing there as well, some Q&A. Nonetheless, guys, if you're in the area and you want to come say hi, come say hi. I'll also be tattooing Saturday and Sunday. If you want to book with me out there, shoot me a DM. I can get you on the books. You know, we can get something scheduled for you. But again, I'll be there Saturday and Sunday. I'll be there Friday as well, but that'll probably mainly be early to midday, dealing with the seminar. Then after that will be good. So even if you don't want to attend the seminar and you just want to come and attend the convention, say hi, man, I am looking so forward to meeting as many of you guys as possible, seeing your story, hearing what you got to say, you know, taking some photos, whatever, man. I just really look forward to meeting you guys, and I think this is a fantastic opportunity to do that. So if you're in that area, I probably won't be down there again for a while. So again, I'm from Ohio, so it's a bit of a drive, but I definitely am looking forward to it. It is my first tattoo convention, so that'll be fun. It's also the first seminar I've obviously ever given or done, so I am super excited to do all that, guys, and I hope that you share in that experience as well. So anyhow, that is in March. It's a little ways off, and again, if someone's watching this way later in life, I am talking about 2023. So it'll be March 24th through the 26th of 2023, Tampa, Florida. Anyhow, I think that's enough on that, guys. Just want to constantly share that leading up to that time coming. Alrighty guys, that's pretty much it. There'll be a photo here in just a second, but yep, so we're just going to clean it off, and again, just nice subtle bits of white in there. I like it that way, guys. I hope you enjoyed this piece. I hope you learned something from this. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one.